long-term review of the new Yeti SB150. If you're already a subscriber here, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, thanks again for checking us out. As a little bit of a disclaimer before this review, this is my personal bike, so of course I am going to be a little bit biased. That being said, everything that I'm going to say here would be my opinion whether or not I own this bike or I didn't. There were things that I do like, and there's some things that did annoy me about it, and that's okay. This is an all-new design from Yeti this year, along with its brother, the SB130, and before that, the SB100. It marks the change in Yeti's overall geometry, the way they set up their bikes, and how the bikes themselves ride. To quickly highlight some of the major changes, of course one that everybody talks about is the redesigned area surrounding the Switch Infinity link. Because of this redesign, you can now fit a water bottle inside the main triangle. This was a major complaint for a lot of people, something that never really bothered me in the past, but now that I have it, I have to admit that it is very nice to have it there. Of course, the geometry is fully updated to the most modern standards. We're talking about really long wheelbases, increased reach, super steep seat tubes, and very slack head tube angles. At 6'2" with a 34-inch inseam, with my measurements, the large size framing on the SB150 is absolutely perfect. The main geometry numbers are the decreased head tube angle down to 64.5 degrees with an effective seat tube angle of 77. The overall reach per model has gone up around 40 or 50 millimeters from the previous bikes that this one replaced, and is now up to just over 480 mils with an incredibly long wheelbase of 1248. The standover at 740 and the overall stack height of 625 makes this bike fit great when climbing, and when going downhill, that ability to really have positive bike body separation going in and out of corners, up and over roots and off jumps and drops really makes this bike come to life. For the build on this Yeti, I went with the X01 race kit. For anybody who already watched my first impression and build video, you already get a sense of what the parts are on this bike, but for anybody who didn't, I'm going to go through it again. It is primarily a stock build with the exception of one or two parts that I did change out, and I'll go through those as we hit them. The first part that you're going to see that is changed out is the wheel set. The stock wheels come with XM 1501s paired to DT 240 hubs, boost spacing front and rear. I'm running a set of Noble TR36 paired to Industry 9 hubs. The tires are the same, a DHF wide trail up front, but I threw on a DHR2 wide trail in the rear for the winter months here in the Pacific Northwest when I got this bike. I will run the 2.3 aggressor that the bike came with once the summer months get here. The suspension is absolutely top of the line. Up front we have a new Grip 2 Fox 36. This new Grip 2 damper has all the bells and whistles and adjustments anybody's ever going to need. One nice thing about the Grip 2 damper versus the RC2 that it replaces is each individual click clearly makes a difference with how the fork feels. There was a lot of ambiguity in the RC2 where you could go 2 or 3 clicks either way and not really notice a big difference, but 1 or 2 clicks on any of these dials on the Grip 2 truly makes a difference and you're going to notice it. The X2 out back is pretty much the same, larger air can volume, and it is still very progressive. The drivetrain is a full Eagle X01, the cassette, the derailleur, the shifter and the cranks, and a GX chain. The cranks and the spindles themselves are the new dub sizing that SRAM released this year. Up front, I have a carbon 800mm Yeti bar, which I cut down to 780. There's a set of ergon grips and Code RSC brakes, 200 mils rotor in the front and 180 in the rear. It's paired to a race face turbine stem, and it did come with the Fox transfer dropper post. I, however, changed that out to a 170mm one-up components dropper, a post that gave me a little bit more freedom in my dropper post sizing and really allowed the seat to get out of the way. I'm running the one-up components EDC multi-tool in my steer tube, and I also keep with me the 100cc pump attached to the frame. When it came to climbing, this bike absolutely blew me away. With 170 mils of travel up front and 150 mils in the back, I had a preconception on what this thing would pedal like. on long grind fire roads. The SB150 really is quite nice. I haven't used the lockout once on any ride that I've been on. The anti-squat on the bike is just about perfect. That nice steep 77-degree C-tube just puts you in such a good position for pedaling. Now obviously Yeti has one of the best pedaling platforms that I've ever found. On previous bikes, it's very firm, but let's face reality. This is a long travel 29er that's an enduro race bike through and through. Yes, they market it as being able to pedal the liaisons and get you up and down the hill. I was definitely skeptical about that going in. However, after spending weeks on this thing, I have to admit, this thing climbs incredibly well. Single track climbing is equally as good on the SB150. Because the pedaling platform is quite stiff, it continues to pedal nice, but gets up and over little things without issues. But I can easily spend 3, 4, 5 hours on this thing and not complain about the pedaling at all. On steep sections of trail or road like that one, that power transfer down is great. Pedal's so nice and firm. No, it isn't a cross-country bike, but for a 150 mil long travel 29er, climbs better than any other bike I've been on in the recent past anyway. I can say in all honesty, I have never felt the need to put the bike into the lockout mode. It has been fully wide open since the day I got it, and I've never looked back. Trail riding on this bike is a lot funner than I had thought it was going to be as well. Sometimes I found my 5.5 when I was just traversing an area might feel a little bit sluggish or just a little bit boring or tiresome. Because this bike is so poppy, it really is a blast to ride. The manner in which Yeti has set up the suspension on this bike really does allow this thing to be very versatile in a lot of environments. When traversing those areas, in between climbs or making my way to another downhill, or just doing a simple trail loop around the areas around Nanaimo, such as Ridge Runner or Westwood, I didn't feel for one moment that this bike held me back. No, I clearly was not as quick as I was on smaller travel, more XC focused bikes, but that's okay. This bike isn't trying to do that. It's still a lot of fun. It moves around the trail and it rewards you for going out and having fun on your bike and trying to move this thing around and flick the back tire and really hug into corners. This bike wants you to be aggressive, to push it through things, and really, ultimately, it just wants you to have fun. And that's what it's all about. Now, I guess maybe the most important part of this bike and why it exists, and that's going downhill as fast as you possibly can. I'm gonna put this out there right now that this bike far exceeds what my current riding abilities are, and that's okay. There's been a lot of bikes that I've ridden over the last while that have made me feel very confident and made me want to ride very hard. But this particular bike really encourages me to be more aggressive in my attack position, more over the front wheel, really charging into corners and riding faster and harder than I ever have before. When it comes to going downhill, the Yeti SB150 just eats it all up.
rough or rooty, smooth and fast. This thing doesn't care what you got. It'll take it all. This SB150 just loves to go fast. Nice long wheelbase. It's super stable. The short chainstays really make it quite poppy. Really nice balance of very planted and secure, but playful at the same time.
Because of the way this bike is set up with that super slack head tube, that nice new 44mm offset fork, incredibly long wheelbase, and just perfect reach for my body size, I have absolute confidence in my bike body separation, being able to lean this thing over hard, come in and out of corners at speed, jump on, off, or over things that on previous bikes may have intimidated me. Yeti has really hit it out of the park when it comes to descending on this bike, as they should have. That's what this thing is designed to do. This bike absolutely wants to get rowdy all the time. It wants you to go up and over, through, drop off, and jump off things. It doesn't really matter what you do to it, it's going to take it, you're going to come out on the other side, and you're going to be smiling ear to ear. This thing wants to go fast, and the faster you go, the better it rides. When you look at the Yeti SB150 in its comparative category, it's a hard hit. This is an expensive bike. There's no cutting corners around that. This thing is going to be at the top of the category in terms of price. It has the build kit to back it up, but it is still going to cost you a premium for a very boutique and very brand new bike. There's no doubt about that. So what are my final thoughts on the SB150? Well, I love it. There's not a ride that I don't go out on that I say to my wife or the guys that I'm riding with, I just fucking love this bike. It's just too good. The geometry for my body size is absolutely spot on. I don't know that I would want to change anything at all with this bike. It climbs incredibly well, better than I anticipated. Great all-around trail bike and phenomenal downhill prowess. Really, the only bike that touches this thing in terms of downhill in my mind on the market right now is the Transition Sentinel. Very similar bike, very similar design philosophies. Yeah, so really what more else can I say? Yeti has really knocked it out of the park with this one. Hands down, at least in my opinion, one of the best long travel 29ers, the most balanced bike that I've been on in a long time, and really a forward-thinking progressive bike that's going to stand the test of time and very likely will be on the bike of the year and most reviewers' top lists for 2018 and probably years to come. Thanks for checking out this review of the Yeti SB150. If you like what I'm doing here, think about hitting the subscribe and the like button. Leave me a comment down below and come and find me on Instagram. And as always, thanks again for watching. Now let's go hit the trails.